Hey, everybody out there in YouTube land. Boy, it is a beautiful night tonight. I don't know, it's in the 50s. I'm in a little town next to Boise, Idaho. And it is like 50 degrees up here. Is it unbelievable or what? Feels good. In fact, I'm just sitting here in a t-shirt. I haven't even ran the APU tonight, ran any heat yet tonight. So we'll see how that goes. I guarantee you I will be before the night's over with. I like being comfy. This truck stop that I'm in tonight has 150 parking spaces for trucks. And they're all paid parking. Now, I know a bunch of you, when I say that is going to set you off. Paid parking, 150 spots, that's bullshit. I feel you. But I tell you what, I really like the way this place does it. Because you got several options. If you buy at least 50 gallons of fuel, parking is for free. If you spend at least $5 in the store, parking is free. Or you can just pay for a spot and it's $10 a night. It's not highway robbery, it's reasonable. That's cool. Now, this truck stop actually isn't on my fuel card, so I can't buy fuel here. So when she told me to spend at least $5 in the store, that's easy enough. I bought a half a gallon of milk and a half a gallon of chocolate milk. We're over $5. We're good. Free parking. They give you one of these little passes to put in your window. Says, don't knock on my door at night asking me for money for my parking. I done paid. But that's pretty cool. I'd spent that $5 anyway, so I'm cool with that. Anyway, I thought it was a very novel idea of how to do the parking. Works for me. I'm cool with it. Now you may also, this is where I'm videoing this, where I'm sitting here in the dark. You may see this light flashing right here. Well, what the hell is that on his neck? He's got flashing going on there. Well, you've seen a lot of guys on YouTube driving trucks. They wear these earpieces with the mic that comes down in front of them. They're Bluetooth, so that they can communicate with their phone, taking calls, doing YouTube videos, that type of thing. It's all via Bluetooth. Well, I don't like wearing one of those headpieces. Besides, if you didn't know this or not, I'm basically deaf. And I wear hearing aids. You can probably tell I wear hearing aids. And the hearing aids I wear are actually Bluetooth. And this is the Bluetooth microphone to go with it. So I can Bluetooth everything off of my phone directly to my ears, which is actually pretty cool. It kind of gets me in trouble once in a while because I'll be sitting in a restaurant and eating my meal and watching a movie, and the waitress comes up and talks to me, and I have to reach over and turn it off to talk to them, and they're all like, they're kind of puzzled about what's going on. And I said, I'm wearing hearing aids. It's Bluetooth to my ears. I have to turn it off so I can talk to you. But anyway, this is the way that I record my videos too. I'm Bluetoothing it through the mic. That's why my voice is probably louder than it needs to be. So if you see that little blue light going on, that's my bionic ears, man. But I was going to talk to you tonight about running hard. If you've been watching my videos for a while, you could probably tell without me saying so, I run hard. And I run hard all the time. I don't take a lot of 34-hour resets. I've been known to run recap hours for weeks. And I'll tell you the trick to that. Now, I've heard other guys talk about it on YouTube, but I don't think that they do it as often as they say they do because they don't know the math on it. You know, I've heard all different numbers, 8 hours, 8.5 hours. The actual amount of driving time that you can do is 8.75 hours a day. If you drive an average of 8.75 hours a day, every day, you don't have to take a 34-hour reset. And if you actually drive those 8.75 hours every day, you can still get your 500 miles a day. When I have to take a 34-hour reset is because I'm averaging 650 miles a day. So if I have to take a 34-hour reset, I really don't mind. But generally with the way loads go, you know, you're going to run hard one day and light, run hard for a couple of days and then light one day, and you know, because you got loading and unloading, and then you're going to run hard for a couple of days. And you know, so as long as it averages out 8.75 hours a day every week, you run your recap hours. Where you get into trouble, though, is at midnight when you get those recap hours back. If you run light on one day, you run out of your hours, and you run hard, and then you run light. What I mean like that is you only drove for 4 hours, and then you're going to come up to a recap day where you only gained 4 hours on your recap at midnight. That could put you in a bind on a load. So you got to know how your recap hours flow. I actually use PeopleNet. Yeah, I'm on eLogs. But I have my PeopleNet is actually, I've got an app on my phone. So when I'm sitting in a restaurant or whatever, I can look at my logs for the last week, last 8 days, and tell what my recap is going to be. Also down there in the very bottom corner of my app, it tells me what hours I'm gaining back at midnight. These are all the things about managing your clock you need to know how to do. Now, let's talk about this when it comes to making money. Because you see a lot of these guys come out here in the business and you'll hear them complaining about their paycheck and they're not getting enough miles. There's people right here with the same company that I drive for that don't get near the miles that I do. And they're wondering why. And the reason why is because the way they run. Now, I run totally legal. I mean, my logs are all done right. And if I catch an inspection or I get an officer looking at my log, my e-logs, it all passes muster. They look at it and go, yep, he's good, he's good, he's good, he's good. They don't give me too much of a hard time. But there are little things that you can do to manage that clock. I'll give you a for instance. Today, and this is, if you go by the FMCA, man, we're skirting right there on the edge. If you've heard me say it before, man, if you're not living on the edge, you're taking up too much room. It's kind of what I was famous for in the Marine Corps, too, is because I knew the laws inside and out. Some people know the laws so that they can obey them. I'm one of those people, what do they call it? In the personality, what was the personality that they called me? You know, when you go in the service, they give you all these different personality tests. I am what they call an unlawful good personality. And what that means is I really don't have a whole lot of respect for the law, but I'm a good guy, meaning I'm not going to take advantage of anybody. I'm not going to screw anybody over. I'm not out to do anybody's harm. But I really don't care what the law says. I think that you ought to know personally inside what's good and what's evil. And as long as you're being good to people, it's all good as far as I'm concerned. But back on this E-log thing. I'll tell you how I did my day today because I'm trying to save all my hours for driving. My load coming out here was 3 days out here. It was 1,500 miles. Now that would be an easy 500 miles a day. That's pretty casual driving. But you also got to remember that I drove across I-90 through North Dakota and Wyoming in February. And if you saw my videos over those days, you saw that I was driving on ice and snow. When I'm driving on ice and snow, I can't get 640, 650 miles in a day. You just can't do it and be safe. You sure can't be doing it through mountain passes, canyons, in the fog, on the snow and ice, switchbacks left and right. Can't be driving like that. It's going to slow you down. So there were days that I didn't get but 450 miles. And then when I had good pavement, I ran 650 miles. So it still took me 3 days and I got my 1,500 miles. I still got here in time to take my 10-hour break before my appointment time. That is key for running hard. When you get a load, and I know it, I see these guys that, they're complaining about their paycheck and their miles that they're getting. I see them do it. What they'll do is they got a load, they've been given a load, and it's a preloaded trailer or this, that, or the other, and they know that they don't have to really abide by the appointment hour. They can get there whenever they want to and grab that trailer and go. So what they'll do is they'll burn 6, 7, 8 hours of their clock sitting around shooting the breeze and talking with each other. And I get it, man. We're truck drivers. I mean, we don't get to entertain each other that often, if you know what I mean. So I understand that. But at the same time, if you want to burn hours of your driving clock sitting around visiting instead of driving, you're not going to get as many miles. You're not going to get the loads that guys that turn and burn get. Your dispatchers are going to learn how you run. For instance, there's a lot of people that they only want to run 450 miles a day. They don't want to run any harder than that. Yet those will be the same guys that are complaining about their paycheck. Well, what happened to me in December is all of a sudden I started finding that I had a whole lot more time on my hands. I was having layovers and I was having delay times for loads, and things were slowing me down, and I didn't get near the miles I did that month. Come to find out, somebody had readjusted the way that they figured the loads on a 450 mile average day. Well, I'm not a 450 mile average cat. I'm a 650 mile average cat a day. That's a difference of 200 miles. That's $100 a payday. I mean, a day. That's $700 a week difference in my paycheck. So, of course, we went in, had a friendly chat about it. I said, hey, what's going on here? I'm not getting the miles that I'm used to. I'm used to running over 3,000 miles every week. Every once in a while I'll get a 4,000 mile week, but always over 3. And now I'm lucky if I get a 2,500 mile week. What gives? And they said, well, we readjusted the miles in this because we were getting late loads and stuff. I said, well, look at how I run. So me and the dispatcher come up with a plan, and now I'm getting my miles. This is what we call running hard. Let me give you an instance for what I did. I ran 3 days. I ran 1,500 miles in bad weather. I got here and I took my 10-hour break. Cancel that call. But I took my 10-hour break. And then I had about 100 miles to drive to get to my drop. So I had to go on the clock for that. Normally what I do is I would come in to where I'm going to make my drop, and I'd get within 10 miles of my drop to bed down for the night, even if I had to park on an on-ramp or if I had to park out on the street in front of the shipper or whatever, so that I didn't have to go on my clock to go in and drop my load. Now, everybody's going to scream, that's not legal, that's against the law. You have to be on duty for that. Okay. I get it. But this is the way I run. So I'll take my 10-hour break, wake up in the morning, go in and deliver my load off the clock. And I won't start my clock because, I pull a reefer. They may unload me in 30 minutes. They generally unload me in less than 2 hours. Every once in a while, things go wrong with, like this shipper today. They didn't have enough room on the dock to put my product. So they took a little bit long. Sorry about that, getting phone calls. So they didn't have room to put my product, so I had to wait. So I ended up spending 3 hours at the shipper. Now, let me tell you how I saved that from losing that on my clock. As soon as I got to the shipper, I went in and handed in my paperwork, and I checked in and everything. As soon as I checked in, I come back out and got my truck. As soon as I got in my truck, I went off the clock. I went off duty. I waited till they gave me a door, and I had to wait for about an hour, and they gave me a door, and after they gave me a door, it took them about 2 hours to unload me. Otherwise, I'd have burnt 3 hours off my clock there. The other thing is where I was going to pick up my next load was within about 25 miles. Here's where we go to skating the law just a little bit. Personal conveyance. If I'm not under a load, and I'm either traveling to home or to a restaurant or something for my personal conveyance, that's personal conveyance. So when I got done unloaded, I didn't go on my clock. I stayed off duty. And I drove 26 miles to a truck stop to spend the night. That's where I'm at right now. I did all that off the clock. So see, I got that 3 hours that I was sitting there in the shipper, and my driving time here and getting parked and situated here, that would have cost me about 4 hours on my clock. I saved all that. I did that off duty. So now I'm actually within 3 miles of my pickup in the morning. So guess what? I'm going to get up in the morning and do my pre-trip and everything and get over there and checked in to pick up my load. I'm going to do it all off the clock. I'm going to back in the door and I'm going to get my trailer loaded. And as soon as I have my paperwork in my hand, I'm going to hit my inspect button, go online for about 5 minutes on my clock, show my pre-trip, then I'm going driving and I'm going to start burning miles. This trip that I'm picking up in the morning is 1,900 miles, and I've got 3 days. So I got to run about 640 miles a day average over the 3 days. And I also know that about halfway across the country into Kansas and Oklahoma, I'm going to run into an ice, snow, and sleet storm. So I got to manage my hours precisely and run every minute of my clock that I can. to do that. But my dispatcher, which I've got a new dispatcher. I've had this little gal now for a couple of months, and we've had our little talk about getting my miles. So she's scheduling me a lot tighter than she is a lot of her other drivers. I'm getting faster turnarounds. I'm getting loaded and getting back on the road quick. But also it comes into things like I ran a load, not the last load, but the load before that when you looked at my clock, my e-logs, it was physically impossible to drive a governed truck. I was going to wind up and be about 30 minutes short of making my delivery. If I ran every minute of my clock at the top speed that this governed truck would run, I was still coming up about 30 miles short of making my delivery. Oh, and the gods were not with me, because the last 30 miles of that, it started snowing and icing and sleeting, and I had a bad crosswind about 60 mile an hour, and I couldn't run 65. I had to slow down the last, I don't know, almost 100 miles at 45 miles an hour. And I'm not going to tell you people how to do this and to work your clock that way that you can do that. And I normally wouldn't do that. But I wanted, not my company, I wanted to get loaded the next morning first thing and be gone. No, actually, it wasn't that I wanted to be loaded the next morning. I wanted to take a 34-hour reset, and the load that I wanted to grab, I had to be off of my 34-hour reset, so the only way I could do it was to actually get there that night at 10 o'clock at night and get an unload in the middle of the night. And I actually sent the dispatcher an email at 10 o'clock at night and said, hey, I pulled out a little bag of Wally Magic, and I got that load delivered at 10 o'clock last night. My company didn't ask me to do that. There wasn't collusion. That wasn't anything else. And I was able to adjust that by personal conveyance because I ran to the home terminal for it in the lieu of that 30 miles. So, well, I just told you how I did it. Well, so that's how I did it. Is it 100% legal? No. Do my logs look all good and everything's perfect with that, so if I get stopped or inspected, I'm all good to go? Absolutely, 100%. I tell you the one thing, though, about running on personal conveyance. Here's where the risk is involved in running on personal conveyance. If you get into an accident and you're under personal conveyance, you better be able to prove it's personal conveyance. These e-logs, they track you not only by time, but also by GPS positioning. So when you say you're on personal conveyance, not only does your e-logs have to match, but the GPS positioning has to be able to match to prove that personal conveyance. Otherwise, if you get into an accident while you're on personal conveyance, you could get hung. You could lose your CDL. You could lose the privilege of ever driving professionally again. So it's not something that you want to make a habit of doing. You want to be very careful about that kind of thing. But running hard. Here's basically how you do it. You want to make sure that you always get miles. When you first go to work for a company, they're going to see how you run. You know, not only are you proving your endurance, or, you know, when you first start driving, you just can't drive 700 miles a day. You don't have the endurance to do it when you first start driving. It's going to take you a month or two to build up that endurance to where you can drive like that. A good dispatcher is actually going to be watching you increasing your endurance of your driving. They'll start you out light, and you'll notice that your loads are getting heavier and your miles are getting heavier and heavier and heavier every week. They're trying to see how heavy you can take it until you start hitting missed appointments and late for appointments. You'll probably notice after you go to work for a company, after you've been driving for them for about a month, all of a sudden it's like you're getting more hours than a human can drive. They're testing you. What kind of cat are you? Because I'm going to tell you, to run 4,000 miles a week is hard. It may be not physically taxing, but it is taxing on your endurance. You know, so I don't do a lot of YouTube channels where I sit here and just talk with you actually looking at me. It's like tonight, I'm tired. I'm beat. I should be back here asleep. And when I'm running hard, and when I go to my 10-hour break, I have about 2 hours that, you know, I play on YouTube and Facebook and that kind of stuff, maybe watch a little TV, and then I go to sleep. And I don't have any problem going to sleep when I'm running hard. Like, it's not, what is it? Not even 9 o'clock yet. I got 20 minutes till 9. I guarantee you, come 9 o'clock, I'm going to be passed out dead asleep. And I'm going to sleep straight through till about 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. So I'm going to hoard up on my sleep just a little bit. Make sure that I'm well rested when I pick up this load so I can run really hard for the next 3 days. But the key to running hard is manage your clock, run every minute that you have available on your clock, and sleep 8 hours a night. You got to have your 8 hours a night of sleep. This is what I was going to get back to you. You know, people talk about trip planning and this, that, and the other. I'll be honest with you. I don't plan squat. I don't plan my trip at all because I run all my loads exactly the same. When I pick up my load tomorrow morning, and as soon as I pull away from the dock, I'm going to go on the clock driving. And I'm going to run every minute of my clock that I have available. And I'm going to haul butt as fast as I can to get to my destination. And I'm going to do my very best to get there so that I can take a 10-hour break before I make my drop. That is the key for running hard. It's not rocket science, but you got to run every minute of that clock. Here's the other thing is you can start rolling your clock forward. You got 14 hours on your duty clock. You got 11 hours of drive time. What I'll do is I'll drive my 11 hours, and during my 11-hour day, I only take 1 hour off. So I only spent 12 hours on duty, so I gain 2 hours a day when I'm driving. Let that sink in a little bit and that'll make sense. And the way that I do that is, you know, I got dogs running with me. Come here, right? Bing, where are you at? Bing, come here. There's the bangers over there in the passenger seat. Bing, come here. Come up here. Hey. Say hi to the people. Say hi to the people. My bingers. See, I got two of them in here. We got the bingers here. Yes, the bingers. We got the bingers here, and we got the bangers there. I got two of them. Yep, I love my girls. Don't you? Yeah, I love my girls. Okay, go lay down. Come on, get back. And so having dogs with me, I've got to stop every 2 to 3 hours so my dogs can take a pedal break. We do it quick, man. We come into a rest area, we're in and out of that rest area in 5 minutes taking our little break. We get out of the truck, we do our business, we get back in the truck, we get back on the road. I take a half hour for a lunch break during the day. The other breaks we take 5-10 minute intervals. I don't take more than a 10-minute, 1 hour off duty in a 12-hour day. That way I gain 2 hours on my clock every day. So my days, like if I start off at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, I'm actually going to start off my day tomorrow about 10. The next day, my day will start at 8. The day after that, my day will start at 6. My last day of driving, it will actually start at 4 o'clock in the morning. That way I'll get a 10-hour break before my drop. These are the secrets to how you run hard, folks. The good, the bad, and the ugly. And if you want to make money, run hard. If you're a company driver, you're getting paid by miles. Get your miles. I know I'm a little tired, a little wore out, looking a little rough, but I'm running hard and just wanted to kind of show you how I do it, and you can decide if you want to run that hard or not. Your paycheck will reflect it. Anyway, y'all have a blessed night. God bless each and every one of you. Be kind to each other. Be nice to each other. Life goes a lot better that way. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.